Well, hello there. Welcome to the Obi-Thorn Alliance. I'm Jacob.
And I'm Luke.
And I offer opinion of someone that's on the autism spectrum.
And I'll be offering the opinion of someone who isn't. If you like our content, don't forget to like and subscribe. It really helps us out. We endeavour to release as many videos as we can per week, covering heaps of different topics. And what's the topic we're doing today?
The topic is, so what have you been watching episode 8? And we're not calling it a podcast anymore because we got a debate, is it worth doing? So yeah.
So we're going to continue with this series. So this is something we do, at the moment it's been about monthly, but sometimes we might bring out 2 a month. But basically we're going to talk about what have we been watching. Sometimes they're shows or movies we have or haven't reviewed. Sometimes they're just ones that we have that we want to talk about. And sometimes you might even talk about just life in general. So on that note, how you been, Jacob?
Good, how have you been?
Yeah, not too bad. I know you've been watching a lot of new stuff, and I haven't been watching as much as you have. You've been kind of nagging me to get into Daredevil, which is a show you recommended. I did watch the first episode, and I did quite like it, but I've kind of pushed it to the side to watch something else. But I'll get into that later. What's something you've been watching? What's the most exciting show you've watched since the last episode?
Well, during the break that I had, I got into the UmbrellaAcademy.
Yeah, so this is a show we both have been talking about. I haven't got around to watching. I don't really know what it is, but I've just been told it's good. So, having seen it now, what do you have to say?
Well, I like the aspect of it. I think it's a good show. I don't think, for people that have watched both shows, I don't think it's as good as The Boys. I think The Boys is a better concept. But the UmbrellaAcademy is still a good show, still a good superhero show. I just think the superheroes are more whiny and whinging and are very self-obsessed human beings and just have problems that we go, and it drags out. Yeah.
So what's the concept of this show? So if you summarize it for me in a minute.
Basically these women give birth, but they don't do the deed, and then this billionaire rich person wants to get these children and raise them as his own because they have superpowers. And how do they get the powers, or is that not explained? Not explained.
Okay, and what kind of powers do they have?
Some have, one of them has strength. He's like the Hulk. Number 5 can, teleport. They all have different sort of powers.
And what kind of crime do they fight, or villains?
When they're younger, they do, bank heists and different sort of things, but when they're younger, they're trying to stop apocalypses and stuff like that.
Okay, and how many seasons is there of this show?
There's 2, and season 3 is coming out in June.
You've seen both? You watched both the 2 seasons?
Yeah.
And what would be a quick rating you'd give this out of 10?
Probably a 7. I think The Boys is just better.
Okay, so should I get into it or maybe give it a miss? Because you don't seem convinced at a 7.
I just think The Boys is just better.
Okay, I'm not convinced if I want to watch it now. I heard a lot of other people say it was much better than that, but maybe I have to find out for myself.
Got to be honest.
Yeah, well, I guess that just changes my opinion of whether I think it's worth investing my time. So what have I been watching? At the moment, a show I'm really pumped about, coincidentally, is called Superpumped. So it's on Paramount Plus, and this is kind of why I mentioned that I stopped watching Daredevil, because that's on Disney Plus. So my Paramount Plus subscription is coming to the end of the month, and I'm unsure if I want to renew it. So I'm trying to cram in a few shows first to decide if I need to or want to renew it for the next season. For the next month, because I signed up because of Halo, and I
Halo's terrible.
I kind of gave up after a couple episodes of Halo, so I moved on to Super Pump. In essence, Super Pump is based on a true story from the tellings of someone that was involved with Uber starting up, Uber being the rideshare company that also delivers food. And it's very similar to, like a movie like The Social Network about how Facebook started. And, it stars Joseph Gordon-Levitt, and the gentleman who started Uber was not the best of person, like he was a ferocious leader that did lots of nasty things to get what he wanted. And I'm guessing that's why the book, originally it was a book, now turned into a show, was written, because I think he's probably backstabbed someone and they've written this out of spite. But it's really gripping. I'm very interested in Uber. I do use Ubers quite a lot, so the show's got me hooked. And from what I've heard, other people have said similar things. You told me there's a second season.
Yeah,
I still don't quite get how that's going to work. It's supposedly an anthology series. I might have to look it up myself, but I'm intrigued to see more. I've seen 3 episodes, there's 7, so I'm going to continue with that. So I haven't finished it, but I would recommend it if you've got a Paramount Plus membership and you're looking for something to watch. It's probably the best thing on there. Best new show on there. Obviously, there's some older stuff on Paramount that's pretty damn good.
Would you say the reason why you like it is because of the main actor, or because it's based on a true story, or you think it's just a mixture of both, and Paramount Plus actually took the time to tell this story, unlike Halo, what they have kind of wrecked the Halo show?
It's a combination of them all. I do like Joseph Gordon-Levitt, very good actor. He's in a lot of films and shows that I really like. The fact it's a true story is very interesting. Plus, I do like tech companies, and I like to know the background and history behind how a company started. It's something I'm interested in. The mind of the entrepreneur and how you come to being that. I want to know about how Google started. I'm interested to find out how Amazon got to how it is. So that's an interesting thing for me. So it does combine the two.
And we were discussing off camera, because I did the research because I was interested in the show to see if it was got renewed, and it said season 2, but it's going to be an anthology series. So yeah,
I'm not sure how that will work. Whether it will focus on a different business, which the name won't count anymore, or whether it's going to be focusing on it from a different perspective, or whether it's, I know one of the characters, maybe he goes onto a different business and it shows how that business starts up. I don't know. It'll probably come clear by the time I finish the show. So that's Super Pumped on Paramount Plus. What's something else you've been watching?
On Amazon Prime, called OuterRanger, with the actor that plays Thanos in Avengers Infinity War and Endgame. Basically, the concept is it's kind of like Yellowstone. He lives in his ranch. He has a family. They have their family problems. It's kind of like murder mystery, and then he has his own property. He's also having like a property debate with like this other family, and then he finds like this hole in the ground, and when you see it, you're amazed, and then this drifter girl comes, and then you're like, and then she says, "Oh yeah, I'm rich. I have $1 million. I can just call people." And then, yeah, definitely want them to explain more about the hole, because they explain why it means more to him, because the hole's the most interesting concept, but it doesn't get that much explained. They more focus on the murder mystery, but you want to know more about the hole.
Interesting. What else have I been watching? I mentioned Daredevil, but I've only watched 1 episode of that, so I'm liking it so far. I'm a bit iffy about how someone that's blind can do the things he can do, but that I'm sure probably comes explained more throughout the series, so I won't go into depths about Daredevil. We've both been watching Winningtime. I think when we started these episodes, the podcast episodes, we probably were watching Winningtime, but we've now finished Winningtime. So we've just uploaded our review on Winningtime, so I won't spoil the scores we gave it, but they were pretty high. They got some good scores, and it's a show I really liked. Do you want to give a quick rundown of Winningtime and what you liked about it?
Basically, it shows in a TV format, but speaking in the fourth person of kind of like speaking to the audience of this is how I'm going to get the deal done. And at first, I didn't like it, but it grew on me, and I think they needed to do that.
Yeah, breaking the fourth wall was I think it worked.
Yeah, I think they actually needed to do it, but if they didn't do it, I don't think the show would have. It makes it unique, and what I also like about it is that they actually focus on different characters in each episode, and it works for this show. In other shows, it doesn't, but I think that's what makes the show special, and it's about sports, what makes it even more epic. And I know I mentioned this in the review if you also watch the review as well, but The Last Dance for me just didn't work with the editing, and in this show it works.
I'm thinking about it now. We gave it quite high reviews, and we are a fan of sports and basketball in particular. I wonder what kind of scores it would get from a neutral perspective of someone that doesn't like sports. Like, I wonder if whether we enjoyed it more because it appealed to us, which is fine because you give your opinion. That's our opinion. We enjoyed it. But I wonder if someone that has no care whatsoever for basketball watches it and goes, wow, what's exciting about this? Like, they may not feel the excitement and the tension that we did. So I'd like to see other people's reviews from those that aren't sporty and see what they say.
I guess from a business angle, it's interesting to see how Jerry Buss made the business decisions.
I'd just like to see what others think that aren't as so invested in the sport as we are. What else have you been watching?
A Netflix anime called Supercrooks, what is actually a spin-off from the Super Justice, Jupiter's Legacy, what was a live-action show, and then they decided to make a anime about the villains called Supercrooks. So I think the anime Supercrooks is actually better than the live-action show because it's interesting focusing on the villains instead of the heroes.
Yeah, I remember, well, Jupiter's Legacy was kind of an interesting show for you. You did film a review, but I wasn't in it because I didn't watch the show. And we didn't end up posting it because the show didn't get renewed, so you're a bit iffy if it was worth it or whether you felt the same way based upon the original review you gave it. So it was a show that you didn't like it that much, did you? You thought it was okay, but you didn't give it the highest of ratings.
No.
But you think this show is better than that?
I do, yeah, because it's unlike a normal story that normally focuses on the heroes. It's focusing on the villains and seeing how their side of things works.
And is it required to have seen Jupiter's Legacy?
No, it involves the same characters in the anime, and they're actually doing a live action show of the same characters as well. Okay,
awesome. The only other new thing I've been really watching that I feel that's worth talking about is How I Met Your Father. So this is a project they talked about a long time ago about making a spin-off of How I Met Your Mother, and I believe it got piloted at some point and they made an episode that never got released. But that was on the premise of following the mother from the show and showing her perspective of how it led to her meeting Ted. Well, this show is not that. This show is set in the future. It's set in 2022, but it's the future of beyond when How I Met Your Mother was set, because that was set in the early 2000s to 2010 or 15 or something. So it's set after that. It follows a unique set of characters that aren't related or linked to the originals. Some original characters do appear, but they're not relatives or anything. And it follows Hilary Duff's character and her explaining in the year 2050 to her son how she met his father. And so it's the same kind of premise, sitting there saying, well, this is the story. And then at the end of every episode, it's like, oh, that story didn't tell us about how I met your dad. That was this. She's like, well, we'll get to that. And it's like, and it continues on. And throughout the start of the show, it was it was okay. I thought not too much of it. Like, I had a laugh at it, but I thought, I don't think this show has a future. Sadly, I just think other people won't appreciate it. But it did get renewed for a second season, and even though the first season only had 7 episodes, it managed to incorporate some characters from the original show, which I think is what's going to get it moving forward. I think if the next season we see the reoccurrence of some past characters, I think it's really going to accelerate its popularity. But in essence, Hilary Duff's character, How I Met the Father, she has a group of friends that they didn't try and copy the same formula of How I Met Your Mother. They didn't go, well, this is the Barney character, this is the Robin character. They're different. They're not as good, but they're different. They do have maybe a couple extra characters that I think are probably just a bit too many. But one of the linking thing is 2 of the characters, they live in the same apartment as Ted and Marshall and Lily. So they live in that same apartment room because they left the swords behind that they had hanging on the wall. So they live in that same apartment and they live above the bar. But they don't actually go to that bar regularly. They've been in one episode, they go to the bar, and that's where you see the reoccurring characters. But they have one of the other characters, he owns his own bar, so they hang out at his bar. And it's funny. Again, you can see what's going to happen. There's the character that's quite obviously going to be the father, and or similar. Like they've got that kind of Ted-Robin relationship where one's in love with the other, but the other one's not available, and then it swaps, and then they're together, and something happens, and they get back together, and you can see that's what's going to go on. But it's good enough. I think it's just a simple comedy. Not as good as the original, but worth a watch if you've got Disney Plus.
Do you think it has the staying power to... Where do you see its sustained life? Do you see it going... I remember in the last episode you said 3 to 4 seasons.
I reckon it could get a couple of seasons, a couple more out. But I don't think it's going to have the same star power as How I Met Your Mother did. I think having Hilary Duff helps. People like Hilary Duff. I like Hilary Duff. I think she's great. The characters that surround her aren't good enough to keep it going. But, if you bring in, reoccurring themes from the original series, you might see Ted in some episodes, you might see Barney here and there. I think that will increase its popularity and keep it going. But I think you could only get 3 to 4 seasons out of that. I don't think it's going to push that 10-season mark, which tends to be the benchmark for a sitcom. If you hit 10 seasons, you're doing extremely well, or you're about to finish. So I don't think it's going to get there.
Fair enough.
What else have you been watching?
Me and Mum have started a show called Sky Night with J.K. Simmons. And basically the concept is we have 2 different branching storylines. J.K. Simmons and his wife have the basement. They have something going that's very interesting downstairs. And then now the timeline, we've got this Mexican family that's trying to do something, and it's really interesting, but unfortunately the Mexican part of it, they speak in Mexican, so it's that thing that when you got different subtitles, but the frustrating thing is that they can speak English.
Yeah.
So they speak subtitles for the sake of it, what to me, I don't understand why they just can't speak English to each other. So I don't actually watch when they go to the Mexican part because I don't want to read subtitles. But when they focus, and there's this other character named June who came across from the basement, and there's a lot of mystery to it. But it's a very slow show, so hopefully the payoff's good.
So have you finished this show yet?
Got 3 episodes to go.
And where can this be found?
Amazon Prime.
Were you also watching The Staircase?
Yes.
And what do you think about that?
I think it's a great show. I like the casting. I think the story's interesting. It's also the show is on HBO Max, and then there's also the documentary on Netflix. So it's a pretty big story. I think.
Have you finished it?
No, not yet. It's coming out weekly.
Okay, I was about to ask you, do you reckon you did it or not?
Oh, well, there's 3 timelines going on. So the third timeline, he's older and with a different person. So, yeah.
It's an interesting story. I haven't watched the show, but I'm familiar with the case. And yeah, I don't know. I'm not convinced of what did and didn't happen there. And I guess that's why it's got worldwide acclaim and interest. Anything else you've been watching?
The Flight Attendant got 1 episode to go in season 2, but the 7th episode was just silly writing. I just didn't buy what would actually happen in the show, and part of me hopes it doesn't go to season 3, to be honest.
Oh, I hoped it didn't get a season 2, so I'm not going to watch season 2 after what I saw in season 1.
So we'll see what happens then.
What are you looking forward to? There's a few things coming out.
Obi-Wan Kenobi is coming out today as being Friday, but it would already be out by the time this video is uploaded. The Boys, definitely. She-Hulk. So many things.
A few movies. I saw Top Gun. So that's something I've seen, actually. I saw Top Gun yesterday. Jacob hasn't seen that yet, so I won't give it away. And we'll probably review it. But I really liked it. I think the first movie was good for its time. But this movie, you know, they really amped it up a bit, and it was very exciting. I liked it. And we got Jurassic World Dominion's coming out, and Thorloveandthunder. So there's lots of good stuff to come out that, you know, we'll see. We both saw Doctor Strange as well. So we reviewed that, and you can see that on the channel. We both really liked that, so check out that video. And we saw Lostcity. And we both actually quite like that. We haven't reviewed that yet, though.
No.
We've given it scores, but we haven't sat down and put our reviews in yet. So maybe that's a video we'll do in the next couple of weeks.
I do have a question for you.
Okay, hit me.
I don't know about you, but I feel like the main problem with Netflix, a lot of people say they have too much content and a lot of people get overwhelmed. But I disagree with that. I think the problem with Netflix is that they, in their mindset of thinking is that we'll greenlight this, instead of actually making consistent content and actually trusting it and then renewing it and making less content.
It's a tough question. There's a lot to it as well, but Netflix, in the world of like tech, you know, they were the first to do it. You know, they have the first name out there. They're the first name you think of. So they hit the ground running. They were cutting edge. Everyone goes Netflix. They got this, and then they pumped out some great shows, like things like Stranger Things. You know, a lot of shows that came out early days of streaming that caught their attention, but now with so much choice out there and so many streaming services, they're just losing a percentage constantly of the market. Like they had 100% of the pie at some point, and you know what? Then, you know, Disney comes along and they take a chunk of the pie, and then you got Amazon take a bit, and they'll take a bit. Admittedly, some people have all of them, so they still get paid, but I just think Netflix are becoming less and less, like they're going to lose subscribers because some people will go, well, I'm going to subscribe to this, or I'm going to swap. You know, if you're lucky enough to subscribe to all 5 or 6 services a month, then good on you. But if you have to choose, you go, I'm going to do Amazon this month, I'm going to do Netflix this month, and then I'm going to do binge, and you swap. You know, at the moment, Netflix is going to be pretty low on the list for a lot of people because they're not bringing out anything too exciting.
Just Stranger Things.
Yeah, and it depends if you're into that. I personally haven't seen it, so that's not a drawing card for me. I think Netflix is probably the streaming service I watch the least out of all the others. And in terms of a market, they're getting more expensive to subscribe. You know, I remember when I first joined, it was $12 a month, and then now it's up to $22 a month. So it's becoming more expensive to join. So you got to make a decision there. Is it worth the money? They don't offer too many extras. Like you get this game pass, so like you join Netflix and you can download some games for free. Like that's one thing to chuck on. But if you compare it to Amazon, you get free shipping on Amazon, you get music, you get books, you get shows, there's a lot more value for money. It's a hell of a lot cheaper. And then in terms of making stuff, Netflix, they have to buy content off other people.
Friends or...
Yeah, which costs them a lot of money, or they come up with their own content, which,
they cancel anyway?
Well, they either cancel it or they have to pay big money to get people there. Like, I couldn't think... Like, the amount of money they spend on getting someone like Ryan Reynolds or The Rock to be in their films. Like, if you're an actor and someone goes, do you want to bring out a movie that's going to go to the cinemas, or do you want one that's going to be on Netflix? You're going to pick the cinemas. So Netflix has to offer them crazy amounts of money because the movies are generally not that good. Because if they were, they're going to get picked up by a big studio and they're going to be sent to the movies, because Netflix aren't writing these things. There's a writer, he goes, I've got this great idea for a movie. You don't go, well, I'm going to take it to Netflix. You go, I'm going to take it to Paramount. I'm going to take it to Warner Brothers. I'm going to take it to Sony. And then if they don't want to make it, then I'll go to Netflix. So they're obviously getting the movie ideas that are getting rejected from other studios. So they're going to be of a lower quality. So, it becomes expensive. And you look at Disney, or now Paramount, they are making these. They are making the content that they are sharing. And they've got a catalogue that's, tens and tens of years deep of content they already own. They don't need to pay anyone for it. If Disney Plus want to put Mighty Ducks on their streaming service, they don't have to pay anyone. They own it already. So, and they can keep it on there forever. Well, Netflix, if they want to put the Mighty Ducks on there, they got to pay Disney, and they got to pay them every year, over and over and over again, to keep it there. Where Disney they just own it. They're like, we just put it there. So it becomes a lot cheaper and there's a lot more money to be made. And you can see that by looking at the profits the businesses make. So back to the original question, I think Netflix is losing its power, and I don't think it's the best streaming service, and they unfortunately cancel a lot of their good content.
Why do you think they do cancel a lot of their shows? Because
probably to save money.
Seems to be their trend. They pump something out, and then it's like in the back of their minds they don't believe in the product, so instead of giving it a go, they just cancel it. Well, Apple have a different mindset. They just mostly renew everything, and they need to.
Well, I think Netflix look at their data and they go, not enough people are watching this. Let's cancel it. Let's just cancel it.
Yeah.
And I guess that's their way of saying we're better off admitting that we failed than to make another season in it to lose us more money. And it depends what you consider a failure. Because we might watch the show and go, that was great, but their numbers suggest otherwise. So they're only basing off numbers, because at the end of the day, they want to make money. They don't care if they produce the worst movie ever made, but everyone in the world watches it. Like it doesn't matter. As long as people are watching it, they're making money. Where Apple have, infinite supplies of money. So I think they just keep throwing it out, because if they don't renew their shows, their streaming service dies. Because they lack content. That's ultimately Apple's downfall. They need more content. So if they don't renew shows, they run out of content. Their streaming platform dies and people don't subscribe again.
So it's safer being, as a creator, working for Apple, because you're safe of getting another season.
Yeah, but you probably get less exposure. I don't think that many people use Apple. Plus, Apple, like for me, I get Apple Plus on my Apple TV, part of a bigger subscription where I get, access to news, I get music, I get extra storage for my phone, and then the streaming's chucked in. Like, it's all bundled together. Would I pay for it by itself? No.
And it's harder to use as well.
So it's getting paid for as part of a bigger picture. So Apple, I guess they don't really care whether you watch it or not, because you're paying for it. Like, there's a lot of people that be in the same boat as me. You're paying for it even if you don't use it. And I'm not going to cancel it, because that would mean I'd have to cancel everything, but I want the other things. So they know what they're doing. They're a super wealthy company. And same with Amazon, they have so much money that they can continue just to bring out shows and renew them because the money's not a problem. I don't think Netflix have that luxury. But Paramount Plus is the surprising one for me. Like, every time I look on there, there's something new coming out. So they are really pushing for new content. So as I said, Super Pumps has been quite good. Halo's been a bit of a failure in my eyes, but it is something new. They're taking a risk. I saw there's a show coming out on there called The Offer, which stars Miles Teller, who is in Top Gun Maverick. And it's about how, I think it's like how they created the Godfather movies, but it's not like a documentary. It's like a behind the scenes thing, kind of like that Once Upon a Time in Hollywood movie. So they're bringing out new stuff, and there was heaps of other shows on there. I saw, I think it's like 1883, and it's a prequel to Yellowstone.
Yeah, I watched it.
Yeah, so there is new content on there. So Paramount Plus might start to push up the ranks because they are a very big company that produces a lot of high quality movies and now shows.
Well, thank you for watching. We are the Obi Thorin Alliance that offer different opinions. See you in the next video. Like and subscribe. Bye bye.